We're just going to take a couple minutes to grab something quick. We're still ahead of schedule. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, mine has never been, mine has always been open to it.
This is my last one.
It is?
That's worth it. Actually, I graduated.
Good. Congratulations.
My family's more excited than me.
Yeah, this is 1-6. Yeah, yeah. It's at 6, right? Yeah, because they leave it different.
Late, got home, I ate, kissed everybody.
Yeah.
That's what the
That's good.
But it's been great. I actually live.
We all signed up for that already.
I mainly live Miles. I wish I was here.
You signed up for that?
Spend more time with
Yeah, I
you.
would. I mean, when we signed a deal that we don't.
Just know so much.
I think we did do it, didn't we?
I
was.
Yeah. It is.
Long time ago.
Small world.
Small world.
Very small world. Worlds come together.
26, Jim? Yeah. This is the 28th. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the 28th, Jim. It's the 28th. 28? Yeah, Tuesday the 28th. Oh, that's not the end. Well, the meeting's the 15th. It's just the two, right? Oh, yeah. 6 o'clock, right? 6 o'clock, but you know? Yeah, man. Thank you.
When did we graduate? Seemed like 300. So Betty, we're all set for signature.
All right, did my daughter get in trouble? Is that one of the whole things?
All right, everybody ready to roll? Thank you everyone for your patience. I know it's a lot in and out. Sorry about that. Do we have? Okay, great. Everything's in order. We've already done the pledge of allegiance, recognition of visitors and delegations. Anyone like to address the board? Please just stand up, say your name and address. And,
Good evening. My name is Vincent Mazie. I live on Liberty Ave. I have a question. This has been raised before. I saw an article on it, and I didn't see any follow-up on it. So I want to take the opportunity to come and address the board and ask the question. The town is very kind enough to offer a tax break on real property taxes for veterans. And I had read somewhere in the newspaper locally that the school district was considering doing the same type of veterans benefit reduction, similar to the real property tax deduction. And so I did a little bit more research on it, went down to the tax department for another county, talked to a few people, and they said that it has nothing to do with them. They said that it's completely at the discretion of the Board of Education in New Hartford, which led me to come and try to address you folks and see if you folks, first of all, have any idea of what's going on with the current proposal, if any. If not, how do we go about getting it into the proposed for legislation so that the veterans living in the town of New Hartford could get that exemption on their school taxes?
Well, we had discussed that last year. The tricky part about the way that the legislation was drafted, and I think one of the reasons you're seeing it not be widely adopted is, although I think everybody universally is in favor of giving veterans benefits like that, the way it's drafted is the benefit, the payment of that benefit gets directly shifted to the other taxpayers in the district. So, you know, we felt like we needed to get a little bit more information, but that was the hesitation. It's the way it was drafted. It was money direct. It would essentially be a tax increase on the non-veterans of the district because it doesn't affect anything other than a reduction to the veterans. So the money has to come from somewhere. So that's kind of, personally, I think it's kind of a flaw in the way the legislation is drafted. I don't think it was fully thought out. And that's why I don't think you see a lot of districts adopt it.
Are you folks intending on taking any further action on this, or is it a dead issue, or can it be reintroduced, re-voted upon?
It was brought before the Finance Committee in December, and the Finance Committee's recommendation was not to approve the tax. Right? That was in December.
Is that something that can be put on a ballot to go to a referendum or anything like that for the voters? I'm asking the question because I have no clue, quite frankly.
You continue to evaluate the proposal. They keep coming out with it with certain deadlines, and they'll give districts enough time to evaluate it. But what we'll do is we'll get that information further. If you give us your name and number,
Sure.
we'll get in touch with you. We understand, you know, that you're concerned about it, you have advocacy for it. We will ensure that you're invited to a budget and finance committee meeting next time we discuss it.
I'm sure it could scare up a few hundred veterans to support it. They'd love to attend, I'm sure.
And we appreciate the veterans. It's just, right now, the timelines that they put out for us are difficult to meet, and we'll get in touch with you next time we discuss the proposal.
Okay, well, thanks for
We're
hearing.
give you your name and number at the end of the meeting.
I'm going to leave.
Oh.
If that's okay. That's okay. Thanks for hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to address the board?
Sure. Go ahead. No, please, please. I just want to follow on, if I may, to this gentleman. Everybody knows me, I'm Ed Whiter. It's my understanding that if the community wishes to submit a proposal to the Board of Education for consideration, for ballot, for purposes of ballot, they must accept it unless there's some reasoning behind it that is improperly drafted or whatever. And I do believe that the State Education Department, the State of New York, has agreed with petitioners in the past, if they so wish, they have a right a legal right to present a proposal to the school board, not necessarily in Hartford, it could be any school board, but that proposal, if drafted in law, if it's sound legally, the board must review it and consider it, and perhaps put that on the, as one of the items to be voted upon. But I think this is where something, I think the board should become acclimated in and learn about that law, because there are several decisions in favors of common citizens who petitioned the state education department, and the decision went against the board. So you might want to consider that.
And we're aware of that,
Yeah.
this referendum that folks.
Right. Well, it wasn't addressed, but this is what, the public isn't aware of it, Bob. Thank you.
What? Anyone else?
I have a different topic, however, if that's okay. I just wanted to say that, you know, a very sincere thank you to the board, our leadership, great teachers and support staff, staff members. Our district succeeds. And, you know, we have the data to show that our graduation rates, our college admission rates prove that public education can and does work well. It works well here in New Hartford. We thank you guys for your support of us, our students, our programs. You stood with us in opposing Governor Cuomo's misguided reform agenda. We thank you for that, and we ask you to stand strong with us now in pushing back on the new education laws. Unfortunately for our students, the governor has prevailed. He rushed Common Core through, we're over-testing kids, and now his new ed laws have become law. He's effectively taking local control away from school districts. And I don't think this board wants local control taken away. I also don't think that this board, I know you don't. You don't want to fire teachers who get evaluated by an independent observer who knows where from, who knows nothing about our district. We have effective in-house techniques to take care that we hire the best and we only retain the best. You don't want to give up local control. I can't think of, with our success, a reason you want to give up local control. So, as you can see, the governor hasn't succeeded in quieting teachers. We're a pretty vocal group. I'm hoping you'll stand strong also. Please, Board of Ed, continue your efforts to advocate for what's best for our kids. That is reevaluation of the Common Core implementation, our over-testing of kids, the opting out option, and loss of local control over how we evaluate our teachers and run our district. Please don't let Governor Cuomo try to fix what's not broken in our community. And I've had a lot of questions from members about just what are these new laws going to do. So I have a suggestion that perhaps you'd like to invite one of our senators, Assemblywoman Tenney or Mr. Griffo, Mr. Brindisi, to explain the implications of the new law to our community. Teachers are asking how this will affect us. I'm sure you're not sure how this will affect us. So I think it would be wonderful if we extended an invitation to them to visit us and let us know just how this is going to affect the district that succeeds, clearly. Okay, so thank you for your support, and we hope it will continue.
Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
You know, I think part of the problem is the dust hasn't settled yet. I mean, there's so much in flux. Like I was reading the chancellor of the Regents wants the evaluation system only to be for struggling. It's not for high-performing schools, so does that mean Hartford is exempt? So I think a little bit is a wait and see as to see where the dust settles. But I like the idea of having a legislator come here at some point. But I don't think it would do any good to have him come at our next meeting when things aren't, because he'll say, well, it's an SED now and we're not sure what's going to happen. So.
Well, I think I'd be interested in hearing what they think they voted, what he thinks he voted in favor of. Because if there was debate between the regents this morning about what, and SED about what their scope of power is with regard to the evaluations and everything else. But I'm not sure that I would rely on Senator Griffo to tell me what that legislation is going to tell me, what that legislation is going to do to our district. But I would love to have, I mean, personally, as board member, I would like to know from somebody who has read it, because it's available to us to read, and I think that it behooves all of us to read it closely and try to understand what it means for our district.
I've read a few summaries, you know, of the bill, and obviously, there's, from what I can see, there's definitely choices that are there to be made.
Yeah, it's short on detail. It says
Yeah.
SED will do this.
Well, it's turfing a lot of it to
Yeah.
SED
Yeah.
and to the regions.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we'll have to take up at some time, like you said, John, when the dust settles. I mean, for example, you know, I've read several summaries that have, regarding the evaluation system, the teacher evaluation system, where the third-party review of the classroom is one of the options. The other option is somebody other than the sitting principal at that school within the district. You know, so there's some options out there from what I've seen, Debbie, so that we don't have to bring in, you know, I guess if a school wants to do that, they could, but from what I've read, that, you know, but again, just summaries that I've read, some of it from NICE, you know, so I think there's gonna be some choices, you know, that each school is gonna have to make on the direction that they wanna take that.
You're right.
When it's all lined out for us.
Well, and you guys are in the position of making those decisions, so
Right.
we rely on you, and we do thank you for your support in the last few months, and hope it will continue.
And it will.
What if we decide no evaluation?
I don't think that's one of the choices.
You know what, Jim? I like showing my stuff. Anybody can come in anytime.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm Kim Rio. I'm a parent at New Hartford. I have 3 kids, 2 are in school. That's like the teacher view, but I kind of want to give a parent view. I guess I want to first, I'm a person. Education means a lot to me. As all parents, it does. And I want to say first, thank you for the information session you held before the budget vote. It's really hard to be a parent. I think you guys all know that. So it's very hard for parents to get this information. I'm a little crazy. My husband thinks I, get more into it, but a lot of parents don't have time to read all the articles. You guys are on school boards. You guys are, in the school, and it's hard to understand. But I really think it's important. I know the dust hasn't settled, but I think parents need to know what's going on, even if we don't know exactly. I tried contacting the PTA, and the PTA website had a great article from the New York State president saying, it's a sad day in New York State, a sad day in education for New York State. And I would like, as a PTA member, want just to print that out, photocopy it, and have it passed out to the students to bring home to their parents, so parents can understand what's going on. Some things I was hoping, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but drafting an email, a letter gets sent home with the students so the parents know what's going on. Some things I thought were very important that I think we need to let parents know is how the bill, as you said, you guys haven't read it. I think half the legislators didn't have time to read it. I think parents need to know that, Brindisi was on TV, he clearly said that, I didn't feel comfortable passing this budget because I didn't have time to read through it. He didn't get to go, I think he said, we didn't get to confer with a board of superintendents maybe, or board of, so they read this very quickly. Some of them I don't even think had time to read it. So it was made in haste, these decisions for our children. Also, I think it's important to let parents know that it was written by non-educators. These people don't really know what they're doing. I mean, you wouldn't put that in the letter, but just, some points that, that are public knowledge, but it's not being fed to our parents, I don't think. Even though I'm a parent, my biggest concern is the APPR. State test, there's, the American Statistics Association has proven that the New York high-stakes testing isn't made for teacher evaluations. It's not measuring that. So when Cuomo says 50%, which is really 100%, because if you don't pass the high-stakes part, even if you pass the observation part, which we don't even know what that's about, you still can't be an effective teacher if you don't. So it's really 100% of the teacher's evaluation is on this test that statistically does not measure teacher performance. That's a big worry as a teacher. Let's see what else I want you guys to tell the parents. I mean, I talked to my neighbor who, she's a nurse, she had no idea this was going on, we had coffee, but I'm one person, I can't get to every parent in the school district, so I really think something needs to be sent home to parents so they kind of know what's going on. And like you said, the outside independent observer that they're talking about, you know, let parents know that we don't know who's paying for this, we don't know how many, how they're gonna get trained, we don't like how can we value the one person's opinion that's valuing a teacher or principal for just a few hours, if not a few minutes. And just that, you know, I guess my worry is too, as a parent, I think, you know, they handed this off to the Board of Regents and I think they need to come up with something by June 30th, 31st. Well, you know what, that's the end of school. You know what, parents, we're on vacation. We're not, you know, really in, you know, what's going on in the schools, and then, so that, you know, that, so they're, you know, everyone's on summer vacation. They're gonna come up with this magical thing, and then it's gotta be passed by November 15th. That's an unreasonable timeline. I think parents could know that. It's unreasonable to try to get that accepted again, how he quote is tying state aid for that. And you know, as a parent, I'm just very upset that I believe the teachers my kids have, the professionals, and I feel like they're not being treated that way. And I think more parents would be upset too than you. So I'm asking, I guess, if you consider publishing something for parents.
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you for coming. I always appreciate when parents take the time to come and feel passionate about it, and the board feels passionate about it. So, you know, we can definitely look into trying to educate the parents. You know, the trick is we need to be sure that what we put out is factual, and that's kind of the moving target is, and I have a feeling that the evaluation system is going to end up being kind of like the 2% tax cap, where it's actually a whole page of how things go, and it's going to be convoluted, and no matter how many times it gets put out there, there could be misconceptions or so. It's not going to be an easy bullet point.
It's not easy, and it directly ties to the tenure and
Right.
discrimination, and that's what I think is terrifying.
Right. But we don't know, I mean, we don't know what the percentage is. We don't know what the plan, we don't even know if New Hartford's going to be exempt. Yeah, I mean, so it's, so I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I know for the state testing, you put out, you know, this is a state test, it's for your, you know, to evaluate your students' progress, but I think like maybe another statement, say these tests may also be, you know, are not made to evaluate teachers yet, you know, the Cuomo, I mean, I think parents need to get mad at the legislature, you know, I know a lot of people call the legislature, but like, you know, I think, well, I'm not mad at you guys, I think we need to get mad at our government. And I just feel like, you know, they don't know, you know, parents think like, oh, that's a test, it shows how much my kid has learned, so then that can tell me how well the teacher's performing, and I don't think students or parents know that disconnect, that these tests do not like evaluate how teachers perform. I just feel like, I mean, even, you know, that the rush decisions, and I feel like parents aren't getting this information, and I know you don't know a lot, and I think that's
Well, but also,
part of the plan.
I mean, and we, community relations can definitely look into
We
it.
have a meeting tomorrow. I just
Yeah,
wrote it
meeting
down.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
okay.
I just wrote it
So
down.
putting together something that makes sense. But, you know, the other thing is, you know, get frustrated with your friends that are parents who don't know that anything's going on. Because a lot of people have been shouting from the rooftops for a long time, this is going on. And so it's, you know, we can send out another letter. I'm happy for the board to do that. We'll continue shouting.
And if nothing else, just, you know,
Right, but if they didn't hear us shouting the last 3 months, and they didn't see all the other correspondence.
But like she was saying, like, you know, she never got like a letter sent home. You know what I mean? Like she's like, oh, you know, if I get a letter sent home from the principal, or, you know, she's like, I kind of, no offense, we get a lot of stuff
Sure,
came
sure.
home.
And
She's, you know, I'll pay attention. So I don't think we actually ever got a paper copy of like, this is, I think I went to the meeting and I got your, you know, letter to Flemma, which I totally agree with, and I'm glad you did. But I don't think that was like sent home in a hard copy to like, oh, these elementary parents. So I think.
Right, it
you know,
went out in an email blast.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah, that was, you know.
you know, it's just thinking that, but like something like that, like, you know, almost if you like redid your letter to Cuomo, but like clearly, you know, you have the budget run, some of it, you know, but kind of
Okay. All right,
say how
well-
this legislation takes place for parents. Because, I mean, I'm the only parent here, I think there's lots of, well, no, sorry, Alexis. Maybe there's other parents too, but like, you know, I know the teachers know what's going on, and they get their information from the union. I just kind of feel like the parents aren't getting that much information, and it's really gonna affect our kids, I think, this stuff.
Well, we will continue to shout from the rooftops.
I appreciate that.
Hopefully, people hear us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Approval of minutes, 3/17/15.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, abstained, passes 7-0. 6, correspondence and communications.
Yes, I have two items for you. One is a letter from parents whose son participated in the latest mass production of the Adams Family. They couldn't say enough about the director and all the talent of the students and appreciation for the support of the program and again the staff members who mentored those students. Also, I'd like to congratulate our music department. The National Association of Music Merchants recently announced that the Hartford is the best community for music education, and I'd like to congratulate Department Chairperson T.J. McEvaney and the music department on that accomplishment. I believe it's the 7th year in a row that it's been announced New Hartford is the best community for music education.
Great. And I got a letter, I don't know if you guys all got this, from BOCES, April 28th is their meeting to vote on the new.
Yeah, we just got it.
You got it all?
It aligns with our board of education, the April 28th, approve their administrative budget and vote for the slate of candidates. They also host an annual meeting on April 5th.
And Mr. President, I got a letter, unfortunately it's anonymous, by apparently a teacher, and a parent and a taxpayer in Hartford. That's how it's signed. I'll pass it around, just in the interest of, full disclosure. It's a letter that actually excoriates me for not affecting the change that I was voted in to do. So I thought I'd just share that with you guys. There's a lot in that letter that obviously I don't agree with, but some of the stuff I hear quite a bit.
Anything else? Okay. Board committee reports, budget and finance, 3/18/15. Discuss.
We call the meeting to order at 5:09. Mrs. Naylor reviewed the 15-16 budget. The presentation included details on the significant factors that make up the changes in the proposed budget. She also reviewed multi-year planning that has assisted the district during the budget development process, such as cost containment initiatives, reduction of 35 positions in previous years and 1 position this year through attrition, continued support of the curriculum and instructional needs, technology purchases, safety enhancements, and continuation of the bus replacement plan to ensure the safety of our students. There was a lengthy discussion on the increase in health insurance costs associated with the high cost of specialty medications and the impact from the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. We talked about the pros and cons associated with a fully insured plan versus a self-insured plan. Mr. Flemma requested a breakdown of non-instructional expenses versus administrative and instructional expenses. Mrs. Mandel indicated that the 3-part budget will provide details associated with the administrative component of the budget, the program component, and the capital component. The budget presents an increase in spending of 1.9%. This follows a 6-year average budget increase of approximately $470,000 or 1%. At the time of the meeting, there were no state aid runs available, so it was determined that the revenue portion of the budget will be presented and reviewed at our meeting tonight. The property tax levy limit increase for 2015-16 is $977,124 as reviewed by our committee. There was discussion regarding historical tax levy increases and the hope that the state aid will be restored to help mitigate high levy increases in the future, yet be able to maintain programs and remain fiscally healthy. Okay, which maybe we'll go over tonight. We adjourned at 5:56.
So when are you doing it? You're not doing your presentation, are you?
Yeah, I think, I'm on the agenda.
Staffing and curriculum, 319.
Okay, again. We received the Occupational Education Department report, including an update on Project Lead the Way, on the Project Lead the Way computer programming course. And for anybody that was there, that was the most interesting and fun staffing and curriculum meeting we've had, I think, since I've been on the board, where Mr. Amati was there and gave us some demonstrations on some very cool-looking computer robot kind of equipment that the kids were using. So we all really enjoyed that. Mrs. Weber reported on Project Lead the Way, elementary computer technology, Delta STEM, business education, as well as family and consumer science. This year the department is in the curriculum review cycle. We talked a little bit about, Mrs. Weber talked about Hour of Code. We talked a little bit about the whole coding issue. I actually raised that issue. I know that coding is there's a big push to get kids more involved in coding, and we talked about the fact that there's some coding in Delta STEM, and then there's some coding at the high school, and we talked about ways to perhaps include some more coding options for kids at the junior high. Perhaps put it as more in part of the computer apps requirement at the junior high. So that was a little bit of discussion. Mrs. Weber also mentioned that the elementary computer teachers and the Delta STEM teacher are now part of the occupational education department, which is a good move. They're more involved. Again, Mr. Amati discussed this computer science and engineering course that was offered for the first time this year. The implementation has been very successful, and again, he conducted a demonstration highlighting the use of technology in the course. Next year, Introduction to Business will be offered as a dual credit course through Mohawk Valley Community College, and accounting will also be offered as a dual credit course through MVCC as well. Mr. Hyde presented plans for 2015-16 in terms of staffing. We talked about who's going to be retiring. We talked about department chair and assistant department chairs. Department chair seats for library and science have been posted along with the assistant department chair for social studies. We talked about, Mr. Hyde talked about teacher certification status and how the procedures are currently in place to track professional certification. Certification status is verified by using the Teach online services. In terms of Common Core, Mr. Hyde shared a copy of the assessment letter that was, I guess, sent home to parents by now in grades 3 through 6. It was sent out on March 25th. An update on the transition to the new standards for the secondary English language and mathematics was discussed. And our next committee meeting is actually next Monday, April 15th.
I just had one, I guess, comment, Alan. When you're doing the staffing, you know, it just, last year, it didn't make sense to me where we had 3 classrooms for a specific grade, and the numbers were right on the edge. And so we pull the trigger and we reduce a class, so that teacher has to go somewhere else. And then, oh, somebody signs up to be in that grade, so then we have to hire a new person right at the last minute. It seems so disruptive where, you know, if it's that close, why can't we say, you know what? Let's keep the 3 sections. Maybe it's not an ideal, but I mean, it's slightly smaller than we want for the year. But it just seemed like there was a lot of disruption for no reason. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean,
Well, I guess, you know, it makes sense, but I guess that's what comes with being on the fence with things. You know, I mean, those are the situations that call for, you know, decisions, and then, oh, okay, hey, you know, I mean, those are, you know, the borderline things. You know, when it's one way or the other, it's easy. You know,
right.
But when it's in the middle like that, it's tough.
So what do you do when it could go either way? Or does it break towards keep 3 sections of 3rd grade, or cut it down to 2? You know, so you're running the risk of, we might have classes that are slightly too big for the year, or classes that are slightly too small.
You know, and I guess, John, the thing that we also, I'm sure they're considering, and many considers it, is what else is happening outside of that? You know what I mean? Are there classrooms somewhere else that are borderline too high, you know, and so, you know, it's a shifting of resources at the time that, it makes sense, not just from that one perspective, but from the perspective of the entire school.
We try to honor the ranges that we have stipulated as practices now in most traditional class size levels. But what ends up happening is we had individuals move over the summer, we had last minute resignations last year as well. So there were a lot of changes that took place last year that generated that. But we've done a pretty good job of being consistent with maintaining traditional class sizes. But we understand the concern.
Anyone else? You look like you got something to say. All right. Say it. All right. 8, old business, second reading of policies and regulations. So then the next meeting will be the third and final reading after we vote. 9, new business. A, personnel. 1, resignation.
It is recommended that the resignation of Lisa Shahood from the position of DPA be accepted effective April 6, 2015.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. 2, appointments. A, substitute teacher list.
It is recommended that the following be appointed to the per diem substitute teacher list. Simone Shaheen, uncertified.
Discussion. She only went to Princeton,
I
Stanford
know,
Law.
I was gonna say, she's the most highly qualified uncertified
I know.
sub I think I've ever seen.
And she taught Mandarin.
Yeah,
I know.
she's great. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. B, tenure.
It is recommended that the following be granted tenure effective September 1st, 2015. Laura Tartaglia, teacher assistant. Melissa Coffey, special education. Jonathan Vaughn, art. Ashley Fox, mathematics. Adrian Champy, library and media specialist. Allison Dunn, elementary. Kelly Rowland, special education. Andrea Sandock, reading. And Katrina Finlayson, foreign/world language.
Move.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. Congratulations. C, master teacher.
It is recommended that the following teachers be granted master teacher status effective September 1st, 2015. Donna Deep, social studies. Michael Hinman, science. Katrina Finlayson, foreign/world language.
For a motion?
Move.
Second? Okay, discussion.
Just to clarify, what is that exactly does master teacher mean?
In the letter, the recommendation, I did include a paragraph from the teacher's contract that outlines what's defined as a master teacher. And basically, what master teacher does, the purpose of creating status for master teacher is to encourage teachers to attain the most effective pedagogical techniques, encourage teachers to remain in the classroom where their talents are of most direct help to the students, and for the top teachers in order to build, to provide compensation to build and maintain a faculty second to none. And that verbiage is out of the teacher's contract.
So this is our district master teacher, not to be confused with state master.
Exactly, not the one like that Andre Perry was just awarded.
It
That
makes
is
sense to have a different name associated with it, because it is a little
We had
confusing.
ours first.
Yeah.
Yeah, we coined it, we coined it.
Trademark. All in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. D, advisor.
It is recommended that Timothy Ferguson be appointed to the position of elementary district band advisor for the 2014-15 school year.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. E, coach.
It is recommended that Anthony Greco be appointed to the position of Assistant Varsity Baseball Coach for the spring 2015 sports season.
Second. Discussion.
Yeah, I've got a question. I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, we approved a assistant modified track coach, and the salary was $3,900. And I know it's all done via scale, but neither one of them are teachers here in New Hartford. And the varsity assistant baseball coach is $1,600. I don't know, it just seems that we need to take a look at something like that. I don't know where we may be falling down, but it just doesn't seem accurate.
And again, I don't have that information in front of me. I don't know how many years of service that would individual had provided, or whether we're on the step schedule, and whether there's some longevity increments. So we'll look into it, but really no.
And so if they're not a teacher in the district, or even if they are, the step for coaching is based on coaching experience, correct? So you could be a teacher for 35 years, but you never coach, you'd be on the first step for coaching.
Yeah, but again, I would think that somebody with less coaching experience would start at a modified level, for example, and that a more experienced coach would start at a varsity level. You know, so that those salaries will be flip-flopped.
Right. But this guy he played varsity baseball for the D1 school for 4 years.
I'm not saying he's not qualified.
Right, so maybe the guy that's unmodified only played his sport at, I don't know, I'm looking things up.
Okay.
Right. But I agree, it's all over there.
Yeah.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 7-0. F, school monitor.
It is recommended that Sandra Nowicki be appointed to the position of school monitor effective April 8th, 2015.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. G, substitute school monitor / substitute teacher aide 1 / substitute office specialist 1.
It is recommended that Catherine Garabrandt be appointed to the substitute positions of school monitor, teacher aide 1, and office specialist 1, effective April 8th, 2015, pending satisfactory clearance for employment by the State Education Department.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. H, reclassifications.
It is recommended that Gina Anton be reclassified from the position of teacher aide 1 to the position of DP teacher aide class 1, effective April 8th, 2015.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0.
It is recommended that Tammy Mattis be reclassified from the position of school bus attendant and school monitor to the position of DP aide class L, effective April 8th, 2015.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. B, committee on preschool special education.
The recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education's meeting of March 6, 2015, and March 11, 2015 are presented for approval.
Move.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. C, committee on special education.
The recommendations from the Committee on Special Education's meetings of March 10, 2015, March 11, 2015, March 16, March 17, March 18, March 23rd, all of 2015, are presented for approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 7-0. D, 504 committee.
The recommendations from the 504 Committee's meetings of March 11, March 16, March 17, March 18, and March 23rd, all of 2015 are presented for approval.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 7-0. E, 2015-2016 budget presentation. Okay.
It is recommended that the budget for the 2015-2016 school year be adopted in the amount of $49,419,245.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, you're gonna see this first, right?
So I'm distributing to you revenue summaries for your reminders, as well as the budget PowerPoint presentation.
What we got in our packet Friday, Mary, is that up to date?
Yes, that hasn't changed. The budget that we reviewed at our last budget workshop has not changed. What you'll be receiving, I'll go through the whole presentation again, but what you'll be receiving here tonight is the revenue now that the state governor, the state budget.
Okay.
Has been. So there's some additional PowerPoint slides in addition to what you had at the last meeting. I'd like to share. It's fine. Share. I'll get it all the way. So as I stated earlier, the proposed budget, the proposed spending plan is $49,419,245. It presents an increase in spending of 1.9%. The proposed budget dollar increase is $942,599. The details behind the proposed expenditure plan or the proposed expenditure increases are listed. We are able to maintain low increases in spending. Again, as we talked about it in the earlier minutes that were read from the last budget committee meeting, resulting from our long-range plans and our cost containment initiatives. Some of the following are the significant factors that are affecting the increase in the budget. As you can see, we have instructional and educational support salaries in the amount of $318,474. The salary and benefits make up 72 to 73% of the proposed budget and have been consistent between 72 and 73% over the past 6 years. Salary increases in this budget are reflective of bargaining union agreements and 6 retirements. And this increase is a 1.4% increase over previous year's salaries. In the next line item, you see the mandated New York State retirement system benefits. That includes the teacher retirement system as well as the non-instructional employee union retirement system benefits, health insurance changes, and the associated FICA tax.
Mary, so what you did was you combined the line item for health insurance, which went up $709,000,
Yep.
with the teacher's retirement, which went down by $374 and came up
Correct.
with $283.
Yep, so it combines the teacher's retirement, the employee retirement was a reduction as well, as you have on the list.
Yeah, okay, so you use that too?
Yep, and the FICA is an increase of just under 40,000.
Okay, so you can buy about 4 of those.
Yep, so our salary and benefits, our benefits, I included all together.
Okay.
So
I
the
mean,
benefit.
It is important to note, though, that health insurance went up $700,000.
Yes, as reflected in the minutes that Mrs. Phillipson read earlier, we had a significant discussion at our last budget presentation about the health insurance increases. So as part of this line item, as a result of favorable markets, we finally have a reduction in the retirement system expenses that we're experiencing. So we're experiencing a decrease in the retirement system expenses. However, we did have a significant increase over previous year increases in health insurance. However, our health insurance increases are still below the national average, national trend, even for like like organizations for educational education. So we are experiencing approximately a 9% increase in health insurance proposed budget for next year. And again, those are attributable to the Affordable Care Act, as well as coupled with some new high-cost specialty medications that we're experiencing. So the net effect for the benefits line item is an increase of $283,464. The next line item, we have our BOCES shared services. As I've spoken to you many times before, BOCES is an area of expenditure-driven aids. We maximize our state aid on purchases of technology, telephone equipment, telephone services, our media services. BOCES shared services provide efficiencies for us that we participate with multiple other school districts across the state and regionally. We do also have some technology department staff through there, our school position, and we do receive aid on the BOCES administration rent and BOCES capital projects they have. That increase for next year is proposed to be $176,191. Our educational supplies, which support our new curriculum initiatives, professional development, all of the items that, again, Mrs. Phillipson read in the minutes from the last second curriculum meeting, and continued support of our programs. Let's see, some of our technology purchases that we'll have for next year, such as Lumen document cameras, to complete the remaining purchases on those, as well as some computer purchases for elementary classrooms to complete those clusters. Our contractual and equipment line item, our contractual expenses for next year are supposed to actually be reduced, and that's as a result of us participating in the consortium with over 100 school districts for gas and electric services through the Onondaga BOCES. We ended up getting very favorable bid results, and for the purchase of those bids, will be locked in for 3 years. Therefore, our contractual and equipment line item is only increasing by just over $4,000. Also, our debt service line item, you see it has an increase of $140,661. That debt service is made up of our principal and interest payments for all the previous capital projects. Those are our mortgages, if you will. There are slight fluctuations in those, as well as the tertiary bonds. The budget also includes safety initiatives that we are continuing with. So we didn't talk about that earlier. So the safety officers that we're funding that as well in the next budget. Again, the expenses are based on long-range plans. Our facility plans, we have a building condition survey that we'll be working out with the BGT committee to maintain the integrity of our buildings and safety of our staff and students. Again, our financial cost containment initiatives, we bid and RFP services. We participate in multiple consortiums and multiple bidding groups to obtain the best price for the goods that we have. And our curriculum planning cycle, which is a 7-year cycle, the budget is supporting the world language materials for next year, as well as OCAD, our business and technology programs. So the budget will be supporting that for the curriculum cycle next year, as well as the technology purchases that we talked about. And we had 6 retirements for next year as well.
Is that low, high, or?
It's lower than normal. It's lower than normal. Our expenditure per pupil, this information just came out the other day as well. Everything just came out, it seems like on Friday and Monday. So we did get this information, and our expenditure per pupil continues to be below the state average. This year it's almost $3,500 below the state average. Last year it was about $3,000 below the state average. Yet we continue to provide for needs for our students and responsibilities. proposition. The bus proposition, again, this year will allow us to follow the district's long-range plan for replacement of buses to ensure the safety of our children and our staff. It helps us maintain efficient vehicles, and we receive up to 67% aid on the purchase of our buses. You'll also see this proposition in the legal language approved at the previous meeting to expend approximately $439,000. And we will continue to utilize auctioning of our buses or eBay or whatever avenue is to give us the best price on our trade-ins. Now to the revenue. This is the state aid side of the budget, the governor's proposal on the legislative budget. We continue to see a gap elimination adjustment. We continue to have state aid losses. As you can see from this chart, the state, I put the word gap in parentheses this year. Will change in our slideshow because for the current year, the state is touting a $4.8 billion surplus. Yet for our proposed budget that just came out this past week, 15-16, we are still at a deficit and gap elimination adjustment of almost $780,000, $779,000. So that brings us to a total gap elimination adjustment of $9 million. So we continue to get state aid decreases year after year. Our general operating, here's a chart that depicts our general operating.
Sorry, go back to that statement. We actually got an increase in state aid this year.
We got an increase in state aid.
But the gap is still there,
The
but.
gap elimination adjustment is
but
still there.
It's still there, but, so it's not a decrease year over year, it's a decrease from the base.
It's a decrease from the base, so we're getting $779,000 taken off of the bottom line.
Oh, I got you.
So last year it was 1.2 million.
I got you.
Yep,
But
and
it,
this
but,
year
but,
it's
but we're getting that back in dribs and drabs.
correct, and I'll get to how much we're getting.
Okay.
This is just kind of the beginning slide. So the gap elimination adjustment, we were restored, some of the 1.235 million was given back to us, so $455,000 of that was given back to us in the form of aid. Essentially, it really isn't given back, they're just reducing the amount that they're taking off the very bottom line right now. So we
Yeah.
still have a state aid cut of
$9 million.
Yep.
Instead of $9.5
The salient point is this was implemented and the state had a gap,
Right.
projected gap.
Right.
Now they have
Oh, no,
a
that's-
surplus of $5 billion. Why is there still a gap?
Right. Exactly.
Where's our $780,000? Right. And then this slide, the next slide depicts our general operating aid, which is also called the foundation aid. So that is another area that you can see from the chart, although we are in dribs and drabs, I like that term, dribs and drabs, we are increasing in dribs and drabs. However, we're still at 2005 levels for state aid, or the general operating aid. So
So
this
how-
is the foundation aid.
So how much did it increase year over year?
So for this year, for example, because part of this includes a gap elimination adjustment taken off of the foundation aid, okay, which is part of general operating aid. So for example, last year to this year, we received $481,000 total between the restoration of gap elimination adjustment and foundation aid. So our foundation aid only increased by $26,000, and here's the foundation aid chart. So $26,000 was given to us over last year's general operating aid.
For
So
the
foundation aid, there was a minimum amount of increase given to school districts of 0.37%. We recommend a minimum increase, which to us, that 0.37% interpreted into $26,000. So for general operating aid, just to run the district, or general, we received an additional $481,000 between the gap elimination adjustment, restoration, if you will, and the foundation aid.
But we're still in the hole.
But we're still in the hole. So between the gap elimination adjustment of $780,000 and foundation aid, which you see in this chart, $7,063,000, and then the middle there, the actual foundation aid, we've received $7,063,500. The promise, though, that lawsuit that said that we should be fully funded, school districts should be fully funded across the state, promises that we should be receiving over $9 million in aid. So again, for 15-16, the broken promise from there is almost $2 million. So we're at a cumulative total just for the foundation aid of over $10 million. So I go to this chart, which last year you saw 16.8 million. So now we're at the point where we have not, if the state maintained its share each year, we would have received over the last 6 years, $19.7 million in aid. Back in the 80s, state aid made up 35% of our revenue budget, and this next year, this past year, the year before that, it's been 27% of our revenue budget, so it's been trending level, but at a much lower percentage. So this chart looks almost identical to last year and the year before, because essentially our state aid has, although it has creeped up some, it still is at 27% of our budget. Our revenues primarily come from the 6 areas. Revenue from state aid and tax receipts make up approximately 96% of our revenue budget. The remaining 4% come from some highlighted areas. So for example, our payment in lieu of taxes, so this is the extra, if you want to refer to the 1 page of revenue, the revenue summary sheet. I'll go back to that. So the revenue for our pilots, for example, we're anticipating a decrease as a result of a decrease in 2 of our pilots due to the National Water Board. So the pilot amount of revenue will be $265,543, as you see on the sheet. The other area of decrease, if you go down the list, would be interest earnings. We've been talking about this throughout the year about the finance, and interest rates have not increased. We thought last year, a year ago at this time, when we budgeted, we thought that the interest rates would have been going up some. We budgeted 50,000, 20,000, much more realistic to where inflation has to come in. The other area that changed some was sale of surplus materials. We had budgeted for last year's budget based on some items of equipment that we had that we could sell. For 15-16, I don't anticipate that we have items that will bring in anything more than $5,000.
And that doesn't include the old buses.
It doesn't include the buses because we take that off of the levy fund. Refunds for BOCES and insurance, et cetera. The BOCES refunds have been reduced. We're also being told by BOCES for next year to not anticipate larger refunds. BOCES, along with all the other school districts in the area, have had to tighten their budget significantly as well, and they're facing similar increases in health insurance and all the expenses that we're all getting from Affordable Care Act, et cetera. So the refunds they're anticipating will be reduced by $200,000. And at the bottom are Chapter 721A, which is derived from state aid for certain students with special needs. Those are those students, as we've covered, the special placement that we have. For those students, we're down to 4 students for 15-16. And again, this is an area that we've talked about each year, that the numbers have been declining, and we don't anticipate that as students age out of that placement by the county, as students age out, that number will continue to be diminished because I don't believe that they're placing anyone in there. So, and then the year-end balance is recommended is remain the same. So it gets us to the state aid. So the state aid number, after state aid increase, between expenditure-driven aid such as some BOCES aid, some of our aids for students with special needs, and some of the other areas such as software, hardware, and technology, and the restoration of the gap elimination adjustment and foundation aid, anticipate that we are going to receive approximately $564,000 in additional state aid. So that's categorical, expenditure-driven aids, as well as operating or general aid. So all of our aid category from the state, I anticipate is $563,850 to be exact. It's a 4.2% increase in state aid, not an 11% increase in state aid, was stated. And on the legislative state aid runs that were out there, they said something to the tune of 11%, about 11%. Many times those numbers are derived from information that the governor's office, and many times state ed doesn't even know where the governor's office gets some of their base numbers from. So our line item this year, the previous years it was in some special levy areas. This year, the line item that was inaccurate was the revenue from BOCES aid. It was significantly overinflated on the runs. And I conferred with BOCES to ensure that the number that I have budgeted was correct. We are right in line with where we were last year.
When we met last time, we ran through it, it was worst case scenario when it was the, whatever the really low number was, if no reform were agreed. How much more aid did we get from that?
So worst case scenario was really when we know aid increase.
So when-
Threatening zero.
Okay, so
right?
when you
So we
ran
had-
through it last time, so all of this is new money.
The 563,000.
Right, so when you ran it last time, you didn't assume 100,000, you assumed zero.
I didn't actually run the numbers to come up with a levy last time, no. All I had last time was the tax levy, the tax cap number, which is completely different than the tax levy number.
Right, but when you're using something to come up with a proposed rate increase.
No, we didn't go through that, this is the first time we're.
No, I know you didn't go through that, but I thought you weren't showing your math, you were using worst case scenarios to come up with those tax increases.
Yeah, that came in at 2.97.
2.97 is the tax cap, that has nothing to do with the revenue side.
Yeah.
No.
But
The tax cap, no, we only talked about tax levy limit last time. It was
But it-
2.97, this number is not 2.97.
Yeah, but it equaled, from what we saw last time, it equaled the expenditure increase of 942,000. The 2.97 was shown to be equal to that.
Right, so we actually, the budget increase is 1.9%, right? And when I ran the budget increase, that must be what you're thinking of. It was at the 2 point,
Okay.
it was to not exceed the
Right.
cap. Right,
So she said
and then when I ran all of the numbers for state aid, and each of the, state aid is the only revenue line item, and the adjustments for each of the other items, I came up with a 2.7% increase, or a $902,000 increase in the levy. So it's below the cap.
Yeah, well,
Okay, so you
So I
gave us,
think
you gave us levy
I'm saying
increase.
zero, but it was based on current law numbers, which isn't zero over previous governor's law, it was current law, or it was, when I ran the numbers before, it was actually based on current law, which is a number that's higher than what was in our actual budget. So, when the numbers come out in November of current year, it's called current law numbers, which is higher, it worked out for us that it ended up being higher than our budget numbers, which is okay.
So I
So
guess,
based on our current law numbers and the increase that we received, we were able to come in below the tax cap.
so did the $500,000 increase go towards reducing, making up the
Yes, yes.
$942,000? Okay, so it's not that it went somewhere else, like to a reserve or this or that, it went
No.
to bringing down the tax. Okay.
No, because I have the end of year balance flat.
Okay. Well,
If I change the end of year balance, then yes, it potentially would go to reserve, but we weren't recommending we do that this time.
Okay. Well, Mr. Reed, we do a couple questions. Can you explain 721 to me, please?
Yeah,
Because what's
chapter
happened is
seven.
we, you know, from last time we talked to this time, we have new information. First, well, let's talk about the BOCES aid for building special education needs. We were told that it was 176,000, and now we're showing that it's going to be
It should be the same number.
well, it's only shown about a $93,000 increase, so about half of what the BOCES services have increased by 176,191, projected services change for students with special needs. And then here, we're showing an increase of only about 93,000.
Where's here?
From 7,097 to 7,180. So about 83,000.
Which sheet are you looking at?
I'm looking at the revenue sheet, the one I just
Oh,
got.
that's-
Versus BOCES and special ed.
No, that's expenditures versus aid. So
No,
our,
no, BOCES services,
that's expenditures.
that's expenditures?
Yeah, so our BOCES expenditures of how much we're gonna spend next year, I anticipate is 176,000, the number you're reading. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
That hasn't changed.
That hasn't
The
changed.
BOCES, the categorical aids, the BOCES, transportation, building, special ed aid,
Yeah.
the revenue coming in to offset expenditures, I anticipate increasing in revenue of just over 83,000.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So it's different.
Well, that cancels each other. Now,
Right.
talk to me about this chapter 721 thing.
But don't forget, BOCES is also a following year aid. So the expenditures we have in 15-16, you're not gonna get the aid for those until 16-17.
Yeah, right.
So the aid that we're budgeting for is based on, for 15-16, is based on expenditures in the current year.
Right, right.
So that's why I know that the number
These
that
are
is
right.
on aid run is way up.
Right,
So, right, okay. So chapter 721 aid. That is a line item for, those are the students that are placed by the county at a house of whichever building, it's called the Iowa House, I think that's one of those acronyms. So that has, the placement of those students is completely out of our control. That's that one line item that changes, sometimes in August, in July, we get information at the last minute that they're not putting anybody else there, or the number either increases or decreases. So, at this time, for budget purposes, we anticipate 4 students to be in that placement. This is the aid that, the 104,599 is the aid amount that we're anticipating, that we get that information from the state on how much we should be receiving in aid
That's-
to offset the cost.
What percentage of that cost is offset?
No.
That is a full reimbursement.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, because it's completely out of our control. Unfortunately, you know, there's some estimates involved from the state when they give us the aid run, so, so that's why that line item sometimes changes in July.
okay, so there's no decrease, I mean, there's a one-for-one decrease in expenditure associated with that revenue.
If the student is placed somewhere, yes, but that's, you know, if there's an expenditure of a placement at BOCES, for example. So, yes.
So, actually, this line item means nothing to the overall.
Right.
And if
At
a
the
new
end.
student comes
Most of
in,
the time,
Because it's a complete wash.
BOCES students,
It's
and if a
complete
new
wash.
student comes in, we get more revenue, we don't have to wait till next year to get it.
It comes the following year.
Right.
Yeah, so it's, because they're both in place, and then it comes the following year. So this is a lag aid as well, that's why it fluctuates some in July. But this number that is on here, unfortunately, it's a huge reduction, but we keep hearing, Ashok keeps telling me, he's hearing that the house is going to close so soon. Yeah, we thought it was gonna close last year.
Again, it's a huge reduction, but it's a huge reduction in expenditures. So, right, so, okay.
Yeah, I just have one question. For the state aid, maybe I missed this before I didn't hit public. The difference between 5592473 and 6073, the increase is 481,179. So how'd you get to 564?
Oh, expenditure driven aids, the line below that as well, increase. So BOCES,
Oh,
Trans
BOCES.
building,
Oh,
all
okay.
of those.
So you add that
Those
together.
were some ups and downs, so
Okay.
we received a little bit extra in private
Okay,
excess costs,
okay.
students with special needs aid, and then a little bit less in public.
Okay.
So the net effect of all the expenditure really is came up to an
Okay.
additional time.
Thank you.
So what effect does that have? Talked about, sorry, I'm a little bit ahead of the slide. So that proposed tax increase is 2.7%, which is below, we talked about at the last meeting, this is where we talked about that property tax levy limit. For us, it's 2.97. But because we did receive some additional aid, as much as we wanted, but some additional aid, we were able to come in with a number below the tax levy limit. And how does that affect a homeowner? For a person with a home valued at, assessed at 100,000, in an enhanced star situation would have an approximate increase of $42 per year. And this is taking the star cap into account. And with a basic star, the approximate change of $58 per year.
Just FYI, guys, I tried last year when I first saw this to correlate it to my tax increase, and I couldn't. I couldn't. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is in the same boat, but, you know, those numbers just didn't jive with the increase I got. So
Is your house value assessed, did you take the equivalent rate
Yeah.
difference? And then there's the cap, it comes in a little higher because there's a maximum amount that you get on the star reduction, it's
Okay.
not even $30,000 reduction.
Yeah, well,
So I
again.
take all of that into account when I
Right.
come up with a formula.
Yeah, and so, and so, I'm sure, and so, it's kind of, if somebody looks at that and says, okay, I'm gonna go up $116, that might not be the case. So I'm struggling with what that really means to folks when they see it.
Were you
Should
way
be
off
right
or were
on.
you?
That was fairly on. How about you guys?
Should be right
Your
on.
assessment change.
Did you figure it out? No? No.
And did you take, on your tax bill, it actually shows the exact amount, it shows the full value of the
Well, I kept the
amount
check from
of the
last year
star.
and before that, and the check I wrote this year, just looked at the difference, you know?
Well, because there's,
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
really, there's that star cap, the state capped the star amount each year as well, so you're not getting the full reduction of $30,000 in assessment, so you can't take 100 minus 30
Okay.
more.
But we're trying to show folks, you know, that.
I take that into account when I do my calculation.
Okay.
So
All right.
this should be closer.
Hey, if everybody's cool with that, if I
The
just,
42 and 58, is that taking into account the equalization? Which is what in the account?
85. I don't know what it's going to be. We don't have, that's the other thing with this, it's an estimate. I don't have EQ rates yet. They're not even out there yet from the state. So this is an estimate, pretty interesting. We don't get all that information until, I'll get EQ rates this month, at the end of this month usually. But they're sometimes not finalized in July, and then that's why we started tax July in August. Because I don't even have the assessments, real assessments numbers yet. So, but it's usually very close, this calculation, so I'll have to look at yours with you. So, mine was right out like $1. So, the other thing with this is, don't forget, we have the tax freeze, the property tax freeze that went along with the tax levy limit. I wouldn't go through all this and torture you anymore with tax levy limit. But the property tax freeze and government efficiency plan, so last year it was just called the property tax freeze, so that any your increase in taxes, you should have received a check sometime in the fall or winter, let's say, because they came out in different times, different areas, for the increase in your taxes. For the 15-16 school year, it added another caveat that school districts that come within the tax levy limit and provide a government efficiency plan that is approved by the state in hopefully June. The taxpayers in those towns or those school districts will receive a check again for the increase in taxes this fall or winter. So we talk about increases, but the state is now sending you a check. Because we are doing a government efficiency plan with other school districts We could have joined in with the town or the municipalities, but it was recommended that.
So is the county doing one for the municipalities?
I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm not sure. We are working with our component school districts with our BOCES to provide a government efficiency plan. And they just last week, there's another thing that just came out last week, they just came out with the rules on that last week, so that's we approved by June 1st. So we're working on that so that everybody can get a check in the mail from the state to reimburse you for any increase in, or portion of the increase in their tax. Our budget calendar, our budget hearing is May 12th, and the vote is May 19th.
Thank you, Mary.
Mary, is this what you're using for the whole budget presentation? Is it that?
Two extra slides.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had an increase of $942,599 and a $564,000 increase. So we've actually increased spending by 1.5 million. Is that right?
No, our spending increase is $942,599.
Yeah, but that includes the $564,000 increase in state aid.
It's a revenue to offset their expense.
Okay.
Our spending is only, the spending is only going at $942,599. We're not spending an additional $500,000.
Right. But if it stayed the same, if the worst case scenario would have been that it stayed the same, we would have gone.
If the revenue the state aid stayed the same,
Yeah.
then other line items
We
would
would have been
then
getting the money from the tax levy. Yeah,
or, different
Yeah.
discussions. Right.
yeah.
What time is it here? Sometime.
7 p.m.
High school?
Guys, I gotta say something here, and I recognize that school has done a great job maintaining level of education in Hartford under the most adverse of circumstances. It's something that is without question, and I think the budget reflects that again. But I gotta say that the folks that I talk to, I think that whether they recognize it or not, they have come to the table while the state has not. And a 2.7% increase in their taxes is 1% over what the average salary increase. And they may be feeling the pinch, as we all are, because of that fact. And year over year, when we go above what the average household is taking in the last year, to me, it is an unsustainable. I know it's a tax cap, and we're staying under the tax cap and everything else, but the tax cap is a cap. And I think that we're gonna have to start looking at ways to do better, or I don't know, but to alleviate this increase above what the folks are getting in their average wages. If everything increased 2.7% in their household and the average salary is 1.7, well, everybody's broke. And so this is to me is unsustainable year after year after year. And so, with that said, I don't know. That's my position on this. Again, listening to the folks that put me here, that's their opinion.
Or do we have what the income levels here from year to year for the past 2 years? We have that information available on state income, right? Will they increase?
They have increased, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what percentage we talked about.
So we have that information.
We do.
On our state aid forms that shows what the income is per student. Can't get down to level one person, but we certainly can look at those averages and they've increased. So we can get that information.
We have that information, because I don't remember the percentage off the
Well, and it is, I mean, to your point, it is frustrating because all Albany is doing is shifting the burden back to our local citizens and making us be the bad guy. Because again, this is the only budget that people, the public gets to vote on. We don't get to vote on the state budget, we don't get to vote on the county budget, so they make us be the bad guy. And we're the ones that have to go to the public and say, here's the budget.
Well, the other unfortunate factor is because we're within the tax cap and the government efficiency program, individuals will get that increase back in the fall of 2015. It would be better served instead of having that other service and that other entity have to issue those checks back to the residents. Why don't we just give
Right,
them
save
money?
money.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you all, thank you, Mary. F, budget transfer. Oh, details, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstained, measure passes 6-1-0. F, budget transfers.
It is recommended that the February 28, 2015 budget transfers be approved.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained, passes 7-0. G, treasurer's report.
It is recommended that the February 28, 2015 treasurer's report be accepted.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, passes 7-0. P, cooperative bidding resolution.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the district's participation in a cooperative bid with Madison Oneida Boces during the 15-16 school year for the purchase of various types of computers and technology commodities.
Move.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained, passes 7-0. 10, other business. Kind of already talked about this, legislative updates. So you'll,
We'll bring, we can put on the agenda.
the
meeting tomorrow.
Community Relations Subcommittee will put it on the agenda,
Yeah.
try to think about a
Mhm.
communication. We'll just kind of keep watching the news, because we're, see what really happens.
I forwarded to you guys, and I'm sorry, I didn't.
I couldn't open.
I was just about to say, I'm sorry, I'll have to redo it, but there's two documents that Jamie shared with me with Mayor, and I think they're the statements from, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think one is from the Superintendent's Council, and the other one might be from NICE. It's just sort of summaries of, you know, their official positions on what the budget represents and what that policy represents, so that might be something we want to take a look at during the course of it. We're not, you know, I definitely think we should get something out to parents. I think that part of our advocacy should be to continue to educate our parents about what the budget means. But maybe that way we're not necessarily, making it all about opinions. You know, this is
It
what.
is the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the facts. I mean, but part of what is, again, so frustrating is that a lot of it was punted to SAB and to Regents, and they don't even know what their latitude is.
Well, along those lines, I had the questions that I posed about just on Monday. I'm still unclear, especially with all the opting out, you know, we took that off our goal to not, not even really focus on that. But what are the implications, given that, let's say, let's throw out a number, we have 50% opt-out rate. What are the implications for any state aid money that we get? What does that do for us in terms of money? And then what does that actually do for the teachers? So if we don't have enough to even measure teachers, I don't know those facts either. And I don't think a lot of parents do, so they're not really informed in terms of what that means to them, even to make a decision for their kids one way or the other. You know, what are the implications, given that we have those numbers of?
You don't lose money.
We do lose some money, just Title I money, it's not general fund money, but our Title I grants, we will lose, certain percentage.
Based on like what
Percentage. So it's approximately $37,000.
So,
If we don't get 95%.
95%.
so if we're below 95% for taking the test, which is very likely, we lose 37,000.
Were we below 95 last year?
Yes.
Yes.
So we didn't get that money, so that affects our revenue.
Well, and the other thing that I had heard and read.
They didn't really take it back
Sorry.
on last year, so.
The other thing that I had read is that, and forgive me because I don't know the source, but I think it's accurate, is that if there are less than 15 students, and Alan, you probably might know this, if there are less than 15 students in a classroom that take the test, that they can't use that data to evaluate the teacher. Is that
That's
correct?
true, there has to be 16 scores.
In a particular class.
Yes.
Yeah, good question regarding that. Does anybody have a number of folks electing not to take the test?
Tabulated, yes, we have a number.
What is it?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, I don't have it with me, but I can certainly get
Friday.
that.
Letters are
email.
still coming in.
Yeah, letters, even today, as of today, I know we received several additional letters that.
Just testing next week.
Next week.
Is it on track with last year? Is it more or less? What's going on?
Right now, it is on track with last year. In fact, I think Bradley was, as of this afternoon, they were 10 below what they were last year. I recall their number being 54.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, question. Something's come to my attention that over the last 3 years, we haven't been posting coaching jobs accurately. The football varsity coach was posted as a teacher exempt position, not exempt, but internally as a substitute teacher. Come to find out that is not covered. It wasn't posted externally because it was considered a teacher in the school, and so that it was just an internal posting. Now that happened 3 years ago. I've asked Bob, did it happen the last 2 years? And I haven't heard from him. Do you know?
Are we posting anything?
Internally? No. I'm talking about internally versus externally for the last 2 years. That's what I asked.
Posted internally right now, and it's posted internally last year.
Right, but it wasn't posted externally last year. Okay, so last year, the coach was not even an employee of the school. He wasn't a substitute teacher of the school, and it wasn't posted externally. Can you explain that?
Check with the athletic director.
Well, wasn't this a time when we were having all kinds of trouble with our athletic department, and we were supposed to be paying particular attention and scrutiny to what was going on there, and still, it looks to me like favoritism has been shown, again, or something other than that.
Well, I think, I don't know the specifics of the postings, but I think it's another example of how there were issues within the athletic department that we've taken measures to correct. And that's why we now have a new athletic director, and I think, I would hope that things have been cleaned up. So I think there are probably lots of anomalies if you go back a year or two before we had new personnel in place.
Well, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is we had continuing problems, and we were supposed to be paying particular attention to it, and it wasn't. And I believe, it's my opinion, that favoritism was shown in this case because of certain appointments within the sport to overlook, possibly overlook, that this wasn't happening. This didn't happen.
Your opinion is duly noted.
Yeah.
And I think that the main thing we can do is make sure going forward, everything is by the book. I think we're trying to do that. I think we've made great strides in cleaning up, correcting the mistakes of the past. So we just have to keep on trying to do our best. Thank you.
So I can say, it might be worth having Mr. Bannock explain, because I don't know the process, so there's a certain process should be in place, right? That says there's a certain amount of time that the position is posted internally for a coach, and then if that doesn't get filled or the right candidate, I don't know how they do all it, but it might be worth asking him to explain that process so that we know how it's done or how it should be done.
Well, under this administration, for the last 3 years, it's been done sometimes correctly and sometimes not correctly. And
So I don't know what correctly is,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, I think at some point, we have to be able to trust that the administrators do their jobs. And so,
when it happens correctly, right?
Well, I think.
Trust but verify.
Correct. But so I'm just not sure how in-depth the board needs to get on what the policy is for posting a position. Is that something that you want or need to know? It seems like a very minute detail. I just want to know it's done correctly.
I don't know that it's a minute detail. I think the process is not a minute detail. It's good to understand, so then when people in the community ask, well, how exactly is a coach selected?
I mean,
We don't have
Yeah,
to say
I mean,
based on
I'm
this, but
open
this
to
is
it.
how the
Well,
process
yeah,
works.
because, for example, and Pam, you're absolutely right, the way it came to my attention is that a substitute teacher currently went to apply for a job with the internal posting and told that they couldn't do it, but knew that it had been done for Mr. Hogan in the football department, and so they had to find out that no, it's not covered under the teacher contract. So Vince Condro and our other athletic director were wrong when they did it for one person. So, yeah, what it does is, if we don't know what the policy and procedures are, if we don't know that they're being done, the community loses faith with how jobs are awarded.
I mean, look, if the board wants to have Mr. Bannock come in and explain that procedure, I have no problem with it. You know, I just, the actual execution of that policy has to fall on him.
Absolutely,
And then
I
be
agree
verified
with
up
it.
the chain.
Right.
We as a board can't be expected to be going to the bulletin board to say, oh, you know, this was not done correctly.
I don't think that's what we're saying, John,
Okay.
but I think we're saying that maybe in the past it wasn't done correctly, maybe now it is, but I don't even know what correctly is. It would be
So
good
does-
to
No,
know that.
What I'm saying is,
process.
that not only was it correct, it was done correctly sometimes, and then conveniently done, not done other times.
Right.
So-
Well,
All the coaching positions are posted on all the bulletin boards in all school buildings. Here's the current posting for the fall, here's the posting for last fall. I want to verify.
Well,
but I think the question is how, you know, if that was done before, who's considered a,
When is it
employee
internal,
versus
when is it
not
external,
exactly.
who has
Considered a
rights?
public posting. Somebody who's certified applies for the position and is vetted through a committee by their recommended for appointment.
Well,
And so if you have somebody that's interested, please have them contact. me.
Well, no, I don't.
We'll certainly report that every opportunity.
you're saying that's happening now, but it hasn't happened.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
we haven't moved
Person on
forward,
that, or I'm not
so
gonna
we're
discuss
going
that.
forward, I thought, right?
So on a going forward basis, does the board want Mr. Bannock to come in and explain posting, how it's done, when it's determined to be internal versus external?
I would love to hear that. Sure.
All right, so we'll have him come in. We can also reinforce the need to actually follow the policy correctly.
If parents are so upset with the coaches that have been selected, this room would be full. So evidently, everybody's satisfied with the coach.
Everybody's never satisfied with
Yeah,
it.
this room would be full.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and the other thing is, one question, how are I read in the Friday letter regarding a athletic hearing, I'm not gonna get into that, but how is the panel chosen to review athletic hearings?
Usually the coach of that individual who violated the code of conduct is part of that panel. And the dean of students usually selects the teacher representative.
So the dean of students is responsible for selecting the teacher rep?
That's in the classifications.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Going once, going twice? I want to thank everybody for not only coming to the meeting, but for staying for the whole meeting. Good job. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Aye. That's 7:30. Thank you. Good.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm actually working for the day tomorrow, so please.
Oh, you parked mine? I'll watch out for my trailer hitch, man, and get you.
Initiatives, thank you. But I'll ask, I'll definitely talk to Jamie, I'll
Oh, yes. So funny. I did that one last night, I have to say, I was trying to score, but I kept looking. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which is a good part, right?